Beloved, today I want to speak to your spirit, not just your ears. There are moments in life when God does not simply guide you. He ushers you into a season where your faith becomes unshakable and your strength becomes supernatural. This is not an ordinary season. This is a divine shift, a holy elevation, a spiritual transformation. And many of you listening today, you are standing right at the edge of it. How do you know God is leading you into such a season? The Lord reveals it through 7 unmistakable signs. When God begins shifting you from natural strength to supernatural strength, the transition often feels confusing at first. You may sense a sudden decline in your own ability to hold everything together. Tasks that were once easy begin to feel heavy. Emotional loads you used to carry without effort now feel overwhelming. Situations you could once resolve by your own wisdom now require guidance beyond yourself. But this is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of divine movement. God allows your natural strength to reach its limit so that you can begin depending on a strength that comes from a higher realm. He is not trying to weaken you. He is trying to replace your human effort with His heavenly empowerment. In this transformation, you will notice that you no longer have the desire to operate in your own capacity. You begin to feel a spiritual pull away from self-reliance. The more you try to solve things in your own power, the more drained you feel. This is because God is closing the chapter of your human strength and opening the chapter of His supernatural strength. The Lord does not want you to walk into your next season carrying the old strength of yesterday. He wants you to walk in power that cannot be shaken by circumstances, feelings, or battles. So He begins dismantling your dependence on yourself, piece by piece, so He can rebuild you in Him, layer by layer. Many people misunderstand this process. They think they are losing strength, when in reality they are gaining divine strength. God often removes your natural solutions so that you can discover His supernatural ones. He allows you to feel weak so that you can finally recognize that true strength does not come from your muscles, your mind, your experience, or your strategy. It comes from His Spirit working within you. As the Apostle Paul declared, "When I am weak, then I am strong." This is the paradox of spiritual growth. Weakness becomes the doorway to supernatural empowerment. During this transition, you may also feel stripped or emptied, but this emptiness is necessary because God cannot fill what is already full of self. He does not pour new oil into an old vessel. He prepares you by creating space inside your spirit, a holy emptiness that makes room for His power. You may find yourself praying more, crying more, surrendering more, and questioning less. You begin to realize that God is not asking for your strength. He is asking for your surrender. And as you surrender, you begin to sense a strange stability rising inside you. Something deeper than emotion. Something stronger than willpower. This is the early sign of supernatural strength. It is subtle at first. You notice it when you face situations that should have broken you but didn't. You realize you survived battles that seemed impossible. You endured storms that should have destroyed you, yet here you are, standing, breathing, continuing, walking forward. You may not feel strong, but you feel upheld. You may not have clarity, but you have peace. You may not have control, but you have confidence in God. This is not your strength. It is His. Over time, you begin to operate from a deeper source. Instead of panicking, you pray. Instead of reacting, you rest. Instead of worrying, you worship. Instead of forcing things, you trust God's timing. Your strength no longer comes from your background, your education, or your experiences. It comes from a river of power flowing within you, the presence of the Holy Spirit. And because the source has changed, the quality of your strength changes. It becomes unshakable, steady, calm, and rooted in God's character. Eventually, you reach a place where you no longer depend on your own abilities at all. You wake up each day knowing that your strength is limited, but God's strength in you is limitless. You learn to lean on Him in all things, big and small. You stop trying to control outcomes and start trusting His sovereignty. You move from striving to surrender, from anxiety to assurance, from weakness to divine resilience. This is the beauty of being led into a season of unshakable faith and supernatural strength. It is not about becoming stronger in yourself. It is about becoming stronger in God. Your weakness becomes His canvas. Your emptiness becomes His dwelling place. And your surrender becomes the gateway through which His power flows freely. When God shifts your strength this way, no storm can collapse you, no battle can break you, and no darkness can overpower you. You become anchored, fortified, unshakable, because your strength is no longer human. It is supernatural. When God allows challenges and battles to enter your life, it is not to punish you or to leave you in despair. Rather, these struggles are divine tools for shaping your character, stretching your faith, and preparing you for a higher level of spiritual authority. In this season, you may feel overwhelmed, pressured, or tested beyond what you think you can endure. Yet, every trial is a spiritual classroom where God teaches you lessons that cannot be learned in comfort. These battles become mirrors, reflecting the depth of your faith, the resilience of your spirit, and the courage that lies within you, often hidden beneath fear, doubt, or complacency. The first thing to understand is that battles expose what is inside you. They reveal whether your faith is rooted in circumstance or in God Himself. When challenges arise, you are forced to confront your weaknesses, fears, and limitations. It is in these moments that God shows you the areas where reliance on Him is still incomplete. He is not condemning you, He is enlightening you. Each difficulty exposes where your faith is strong and where it needs refinement. The trials reveal the hidden potential in your spirit, the endurance, patience, and resilience that you did not even know existed. At the same time, these battles stretch you. When you face situations that seem impossible, you are pushed out of your comfort zone. God intentionally allows you to reach the edge of your own capacity so that you must rely on Him. Human strength has a boundary, but divine strength knows no limit. When you are stretched, your faith expands. What once intimidated you no longer has the same power over you. Obstacles that would have previously caused you to give up become opportunities to witness God's miraculous intervention. The stretching process may feel uncomfortable, even painful at times, but it is essential for growth. Just as a muscle becomes stronger when challenged and strained, your faith is strengthened when it is tested in real-life situations. Another aspect of this spiritual training is endurance. Battles are not always quick. Some last days, months, or even years. God allows prolonged trials so that your perseverance is forged. Each day you continue to trust Him. Each time you choose to pray instead of panic, each time you hold on instead of letting go, your spiritual endurance grows. This endurance is the hallmark of unshakable faith. It is what allows you to remain steadfast when the world around you is unstable, what allows you to maintain peace when chaos surrounds you, and what enables you to keep moving forward when natural logic tells you to stop. The refinement that comes through these battles also sharpens your discernment. You begin to see clearly which voices, actions, and influences are beneficial to your spiritual journey, and which are distractions or traps. Through opposition, God teaches you to rely less on human advice and more on His guidance. You learn to discern His voice in the midst of confusion, to recognize His timing in the face of delay, and to follow His direction even when the path is unclear. This discernment is a critical component of spiritual authority because it ensures that your decisions are led by God's wisdom rather than human impulse. Moreover, battles develop courage. Facing opposition and overcoming fear strengthens your inner resolve. You start to realize that what once intimidated you now seems manageable because God is walking beside you. Your courage is no longer dependent on circumstances. It is anchored in the knowledge that God is faithful. You begin to take steps that previously seemed impossible. Speak words you were too afraid to speak, and embrace responsibilities you once avoided. Courage grows naturally when faith is exercised under pressure. Finally, these spiritual battles cultivate humility, a dependence on God. When everything is easy, it is tempting to rely on your own abilities, resources, and understanding. But when you are tested, you quickly learn that you cannot overcome in your own strength. You are reminded that true victory comes from God. This humility does not weaken you, it strengthens your faith, aligning your heart with His and creating a spirit that is teachable, receptive, and sensitive to divine guidance. Through all of this, you begin to see a pattern. God does not bring trials to destroy, said, more heartfelt and more aligned with God's will. You begin to hear His voice more clearly, discern His guidance more accurately, and sense His presence more tangibly. This deeper prayer life is a conduit for supernatural strength. God imparts wisdom, insight, and clarity through prayer that cannot be obtained through human effort. Your decisions, once based on logic or emotion, now flow from divine guidance. This is where faith transforms from a hopeful feeling into a living active power that sustains and directs you. Another aspect of this deepening intimacy is persistence. You may feel led to pray longer, more consistently, or at times that challenge your natural routines. Early mornings, late nights, and quiet hours become sacred opportunities for communion. This discipline is not about religious obligation, but about nurturing a relationship that is essential for the season ahead. The more time you spend in God's presence, the more your inner being is strengthened. Each prayer, each moment of listening, each act of surrender builds spiritual resilience that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. Through this process, your perspective on life begins to shift. Problems that once seemed overwhelming now appear smaller when placed in the light of God's presence. Decisions that once caused anxiety are now approached with confidence and clarity. Challenges that once threatened to break your spirit are met with peace and courage. This transformation happens because prayer is not just a conversation, it is a spiritual alignment. Your heart, mind, and will begin to sync with God's purposes. You start to think, feel, and act in harmony with His Spirit. This alignment is the foundation of unshakable faith and supernatural strength. Intimacy with God through prayer also cultivates sensitivity to His Spirit. You become more aware of His promptings, more responsive to His guidance, and more receptive to His direction. This heightened spiritual perception equips you to navigate life with wisdom and discernment. Situations that would have been confusing or frightening are now opportunities to exercise faith and experience divine intervention. Your spiritual senses are sharpened, enabling you to recognize blessings, avoid pitfalls, and step boldly into the assignments God has prepared for you. Finally, this deep connection through prayer fosters dependence on God that is both joyful and liberating. You learn to release control over outcomes, trusting that He is orchestrating every detail of your life. Anxiety diminishes because you know your life is in the hands of the Almighty. Strength flows naturally because it is sourced from the one who never tires, never falters, and never fails. You experience a peace and empowerment that surpass human understanding, a confirmation that you are being prepared for a season of supernatural strength. In this way, the pull toward deeper prayer is not a coincidence. It is a divine invitation. God is calling you into a partnership with Him, where your faith is deepened, your strength is magnified, and your spirit is anchored in His presence. By embracing this call, by responding with consistency, humility, and devotion, you enter a season where prayer becomes both your weapon and your refuge, your guidance and your strength. It is through this intimacy that your faith becomes unshakable and your strength becomes truly supernatural, equipping you to face every challenge, walk every assignment, and fulfill every purpose God has prepared for your life. When God begins to remove weakening voices and strengthen your spiritual environment, it is a deliberate act of divine pruning designed to prepare you for a season of unshakable faith and supernatural strength. This process is not always comfortable because it often involves separation from people, places, or circumstances that once seemed familiar or necessary. Yet it is a sign that God is realigning your life to match His purpose and timing. The voices, opinions, and influences that once seemed helpful may now distract, discourage, or even derail you. God begins to redirect your focus, influence, and relationships so that your spirit can thrive in alignment with His plan. The first indication of this process is often a sense of discomfort in certain environments or relationships. You may notice that conversations that were once pleasant now leave you feeling drained, anxious, or doubtful. People you once trusted may unknowingly sow seeds of hesitation, fear, or indecision. Situations that used to energize you now feel heavy or unproductive. This discomfort is God's way of prompting discernment. He is signaling that certain areas of your life are no longer beneficial to your spiritual growth. This is not a punishment. It is a form of protection and preparation. God's aim is to clear the path so that your faith can rise without unnecessary interference. As this divine pruning continues, you begin to recognize the difference between strengthening and weakening influences. Strengthening influences bring encouragement, vision, and alignment with God's purposes. Weakening influences, on the other hand, foster doubt, distraction, and delay. God often orchestrates situations to make this distinction unmistakable. You may experience gentle nudges away from certain friendships, professional circles, or even family dynamics, not out of rejection, but out of divine strategy. The Lord wants to surround you with people, environments, and experiences that elevate your faith and strengthen your spiritual foundation. This process also sharpens discernment. As God removes distractions and harmful influences, you become more attuned to His voice and guidance. You learn to recognize which words, actions, and relationships are in harmony with God's plan and which are not. This heightened spiritual perception equips you to make wiser decisions, protect your energy, and avoid unnecessary conflict. You begin to trust your instincts more, not as a product of human reasoning alone, but as a reflection of God's ongoing guidance in your life. One of the most profound effects of this divine pruning is the development of spiritual focus. When weakening voices are removed, your attention naturally shifts toward God and His purposes. Distractions that once scattered your energy begin to fade, allowing you to concentrate on prayer, vision, and faith-filled action. Your spiritual environment becomes fertile ground for growth because it is intentionally curated by God. This focus empowers you to move forward with clarity, courage, and confidence, knowing that the people, experiences, and opportunities in your life are strategically placed for your spiritual advancement. Another important aspect of this process is the strengthening of your inner resilience. As God removes external supports that may have inadvertently fostered dependence, you learn to rely more fully on Him. Situations that would have previously caused panic or confusion now become opportunities to exercise faith. Your spiritual muscle grows stronger as you learn to navigate life with God as your primary source of guidance and strength. Each challenge, separation, or shift reinforces the truth that your security is not in others or in circumstances, but in God Himself. This season also cultivates humility and surrender. Letting go of familiar voices, routines, or relationships can be difficult, but it teaches you to trust God's wisdom over your own understanding. You begin to surrender control and accept that His plan is higher, broader, and more perfect than what you can see. Through this surrender, your faith deepens, your patience increases, and your reliance on God becomes instinctive rather than forced. Ultimately, when God removes weakening voices and strengthens your spiritual environment, He is preparing you for a life marked by supernatural strength. You emerge more focused, discerning, and resilient, equipped to face challenges without fear or distraction. The people, circumstances, and guidance that remain in your life are divinely chosen to support your growth and destiny. Through this divine pruning, your faith becomes unshakable, your spiritual vision sharp, and your capacity for supernatural strength fully awakened. This is a season of alignment, purification, and divine orchestration. God is clearing the clutter, removing the noise, and establishing a foundation where your spirit can thrive. By embracing this process with patience, trust, and obedience, you position yourself to walk boldly into the next level of faith and strength, fully anchored in His presence and fully empowered by His Spirit. Every separation, every adjustment, and every removed voice is a step toward a destiny that cannot be shaken because it is rooted in God's perfect plan. When a new boldness and courage begin to rise within you, it is a clear indication that God is preparing you for a season of unshakable faith. A. Supernatural strength. This boldness is not born out of arrogance, self-confidence, or human bravado. It is a divine empowerment that flows from the Holy Spirit within you. It is the kind of courage that allows you to face challenges, speak truth, and step into assignments that once seemed too difficult or frightening. This boldness signals that your faith is moving from a passive hope to an active force, one that enables you to operate with authority, clarity, and divine confidence in every situation. At first, this boldness often manifests subtly. You may notice a shift in your mindset, a quiet assurance that God is with you, and a readiness to take steps you previously avoided. Situations that once intimidated you no longer hold the same power over your emotions. Decisions that would have caused hesitation or fear now provoke a calm determination. This inner transformation is the beginning of courage rooted in the Spirit. It is the evidence that God is aligning your heart with His purposes and equipping you to walk in authority that is beyond human reasoning. As this boldness grows, you begin to speak with clarity and authority. Your words carry conviction because they are anchored in divine truth rather than mere human opinion. Where you once may have doubted yourself or feared the response of others, you now feel a confident assurance that God's guidance is infallible. You begin to articulate your thoughts, share your vision, and declare your faith in ways that influence and inspire others. This is a hallmark of supernatural courage. It empowers you to act decisively, even in the face of uncertainty or opposition. Another critical aspect of this rising courage is the ability to confront fear and opposition with calm determination. Life will always present obstacles, challenges, and people who resist your progress. Natural courage often falters under pressure, but supernatural boldness thrives in adversity. You find yourself able to face difficult conversations, take risks, and embrace opportunities without being paralyzed by fear. This courage is not reckless, it is deliberate, guided by the wisdom and discernment of the Spirit. It allows you to act decisively, knowing that God is directing your steps and strengthening your heart. This boldness also transforms your perception of challenges. What once seemed impossible now appears as an opportunity to witness God's power at work. Where fear and doubt would have previously dominated your thoughts, faith and confidence now take the lead. You begin to expect God's provision, guidance, and protection, even before circumstances shift. This expectation is a critical component of unshakable faith because it demonstrates a deep trust in God's character and promises. Your courage becomes a reflection of your intimacy with Him, your understanding of His faithfulness, and your willingness to move forward despite uncertainty. Furthermore, this divine courage inspires action. Boldness without action is incomplete, but when empowered by the Spirit, your faith compels you to move forward. You begin to step into opportunities, confront challenges, and embrace responsibilities that previously seemed unattainable. Each act of courage strengthens your spiritual muscles, builds your confidence in God, and reinforces the truth that His power within you is greater than any obstacle outside you. Your boldness becomes a cycle of empowerment. The more you act in faith, the more your courage grows, and the more God's supernatural strength is revealed in your life. Alongside action, this rising boldness cultivates influence. People are naturally drawn to confidence that is anchored in integrity and divine authority. Your words, decisions, and demeanor begin to impact others positively. Your boldness does not seek personal recognition. It seeks to reflect God's glory, encourage others in their faith, and advance His kingdom purposes. This influence becomes a tool for blessing, equipping, and inspiring those around you, demonstrating that courage rooted in God is always generative rather than self-serving. Finally, this boldness fosters resilience. Even when you face setbacks, opposition, or misunderstanding, you are able to remain steadfast. Your courage anchors you in God's presence, helping you to endure trials without losing heart. You begin to realize that supernatural strength is not the absence of difficulty, but the ability to remain unshaken in the midst of it. Each challenge becomes a proving ground for your faith, a refining fire that strengthens your spirit and prepares you for even greater assignments. In this way, the rise of boldness and courage within you is a divine signal. God is equipping you for unshakable faith and supernatural strength. It is a preparation for action, a foundation for influence, and a shield against fear. By embracing this boldness, walking in confidence, and relying fully on the Spirit, you position yourself to move powerfully into your God-given destiny. This courage is both a gift and a responsibility. It empowers you to act decisively, trust unwaveringly, and demonstrate the strength of God through every word, step, and decision in your life. When you begin to experience a peace that doesn't make sense to others, it is one of the most powerful indicators that God is leading you into a season of unshakable faith and supernatural strength. This peace is not conditional upon circumstances, nor is it dependent on what is happening around you. It is a supernatural peace, a divine gift from God that anchors your spirit in the midst of storms, trials, and uncertainty. It is the kind of peace that Jesus promised, a peace that surpasses all understanding and guards your heart and mind in Him. When this peace takes root in your life, it becomes a stabilizing force, a source of courage, and the foundation of a faith that cannot be shaken. The first sign of this supernatural peace is an inner calm during chaos. Situations that would normally trigger panic, anxiety, or despair now seem manageable. While others may be frantically reacting to the challenges around them, your spirit remains steady, composed, and anchored in the knowledge that God is in control. This does not mean that you are oblivious to the difficulties. Rather, it means that your perspective has shifted. You are able to observe the storm without being consumed by it. The world may see confusion and fear, but within you is a quiet assurance that God is working all things together for your good. This peace often begins subtly as a sense of trust that surpasses your human understanding. You may find yourself sleeping well despite challenges, speaking calmly when others are tense, or making decisions with clarity while those around you are uncertain. It is an internal testimony that God's presence is with you, a confirmation that He is your refuge and strength. Over time, this peace becomes more pronounced, revealing itself in your demeanor, speech, and actions. People may notice that you carry a serenity that is unshakable, a calm confidence that cannot be explained by natural reasoning alone. Supernatural peace also empowers your faith to grow. When your spirit is anchored in this peace, fear loses its grip. Doubt becomes less persuasive. Anxiety cannot dominate your thoughts. This peace allows you to focus on God's promises rather than your problems, on His power rather than your limitations, and on His timing rather than your impatience. Your faith is strengthened because it is no longer reactive to circumstances. It is proactive in trusting God. You begin to live not by sight, but by the Spirit, confident that He is orchestrating every detail of your life according to His perfect plan. Another important aspect of this peace is its resilience. Unlike human peace, which is fragile and fleeting, supernatural peace endures even when trials persist. You may face opposition, setbacks, or confusion, yet your inner calm remains. This peace is a reflection of your alignment with God and your awareness of His sovereignty. It is a stabilizing force that prevents you from being shaken by temporary difficulties or external pressures. In essence, it becomes a spiritual anchor, keeping you grounded in faith when everything else seems unstable. This peace also influences those around you. When you carry a calm, unshakable spirit, others are drawn to it. Your presence becomes a source of encouragement, reassurance, and hope. People notice that you respond differently to challenges, that your faith sustains you, and that your confidence inspires them to trust God more fully. In this way, your supernatural peace does not just bless you, it becomes a tool for ministry, a means of demonstrating God's power and faithfulness to others. Experiencing this peace also changes the way you approach prayer and decision-making. When fear and anxiety are replaced by calm assurance, Your prayers become more focused and effective. You are able to hear God's voice more clearly, discern His guidance with greater accuracy, and act in alignment with His will. Your decisions are no longer rushed or driven by panic. They are deliberate, wise, and Spirit-led. The peace within you creates an environment where faith can flourish and supernatural strength can be manifested. Ultimately, this peace is both a gift and a preparation. It signifies that God is equipping you for a higher level of faith, a stronger spirit, and a deeper release. When you carry this peace, you are positioned to face life's challenges without being overwhelmed, to walk boldly into your assignments, and to demonstrate supernatural strength in ways that glorify God. It is a sign that your faith is rooted deeply in Him, and that no external circumstance can shake the confidence and resilience He has placed within you. In this season, the peace that surpasses understanding becomes the hallmark of your spiritual life. It anchors you, empowers you, and protects you. It enables you to remain steadfast when storms rage, courageous when fear arises, and faithful when trials persist. This peace is not simply a feeling. It is a supernatural reality that testifies to God's presence, power, and faithfulness in your life. As you embrace it, your faith becomes unshakable, and your strength becomes truly supernatural, allowing you to fulfill every purpose He has prepared for you. As we reflect on these signs, it becomes clear that God is intentionally preparing you for a season of unshakable faith and supernatural strength. Every trial, every pull toward deeper prayer, every pruning of influences, every rise of boldness, and every gift of supernatural peace is not random. It is a divine orchestration designed to elevate your spirit and align your life with His purpose. This season is about transformation, moving from reliance on human strength to dependence on God's power, from fear to courage, from distraction to focus, and from uncertainty to steadfast confidence in His faithfulness. Embrace these signs with gratitude and trust, knowing that each one is a confirmation of God's hand guiding you into a higher realm of spiritual maturity. Stand firm in the knowledge that what you are experiencing is not a coincidence, but a carefully prepared path that will strengthen your faith, fortify your spirit, and equip you to accomplish the extraordinary things God has destined for your life. Walk boldly, pray fervently, trust unwaveringly, and remain anchored in His presence. For in this season, your faith will no longer be shaken by circumstances, and your strength will flow from a source that is limitless and divine. God is leading you forward, and the unshakable faith and supernatural strength you are stepping into will not only sustain you, but will also impact generations, fulfill your divine calling, and glorify His name. This is your moment. Receive it, embrace it, and step confidently into the extraordinary destiny that awaits you.